Right, everyone. Just wanted to show my complete, at this time complete, subset of original Xbox games that are backwards compatible on the Xbox One. Took a while to track all these down, but I'm really glad. It's sort of the first complete subset that I've ever gathered. I don't think I'll ever do complete collections, but subsets interest me because they're actually got some quirks to them and they're all pretty decent games. So, top of this pile, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, Game of the Year edition. Yeah, Elder Scrolls game, great game. And this one, I think Digital Foundry did a review on it, and apparently, if you have the PC version of this and you run it on like a 1080 Ti or a 2080 Ti or something like that, really high-end graphics card, this version on Xbox One is only slightly less less impressive than that one, which I think is pretty good considering you can just get this disc and get an Xbox One X and just run it all off the shelf. It's pretty impressive that it can compete with a PC like that. MX Unleashed. Haven't really played this. Not really into motorcycle racing games or ATV racing games, but you know, it's probably going to be a decent one when I finally get around to it. Now, this is one of the games that I already owned before the backwards compatibility got announced, because I really like the Indiana Jones games. The one that was on the N64 is now on GOG, if anyone wants to go grab that one as well. That one's actually pretty interesting, but this one, Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. Yeah, I've only sort of played the first level or so of this, but it's lots of fun. It's really good. It's Indiana Jones. Give it a go. This is the only game in my collection that I have the classics version for, and this was another one that I owned before the backwards compatibility got announced. Sorry for the jump cut there. That one, my phone likes to turn itself off every now and again. So yeah, SSX3 from EA, back when EA did not suck. That's going to be a repeating theme here, by the way. Yeah, the only classics one I have, and yeah, it's a very good pick up and play arcade. Sort of pick it up, play it for 5 minutes, do a few tricks, put it back down again. I don't really like playing it for long periods of time. I'm not very good at the tricks, but it's just fun to kill 5 minutes with that. Grab by the Ghoulies, the Rare game that was going to be on the GameCube until Microsoft bought Rare. And then, yeah, this was now then an Xbox exclusive. Honestly, I've only played the opening scene of this, and it wasn't really my thing, but it's probably going to be a decent game. Oh, now this game. This game was a pain in the butt to get, and I think this was the only one of, I think, maybe 2 games in this whole set that was sealed when I bought it. And this was a nightmare to get because I had to, as you can see, it's got the European rating system on there, as opposed to the, where is it? The Australian Office of Film and Literature classification mark on it. Because I had to order this in, and I'm pretty sure this one I got from Italy, and I remember that one, but this is a strange European variant because it has the Dutch stuff on there, the stuff in the Netherlands, and Italian on there. Now, thankfully, when I put this in and played it, it played completely in English. However, when I tried it on the original Xbox, the 2001 model, it tried to play in Italian. So probably not going to be one you can play outside of the Xbox One version. But this was sealed when I bought it. Cost a fair bit. Had to get it off eBay. Wasn't able to find it locally or anything. But it is a. I've barely played this thing. I maybe played like the first 30 seconds. Looks okay. Looks like a first-person shooter game. I'll give that more of a go later on. This is I think the only NTSC exclusive, although it's not my only NTSC game in this collection. King of Fighters Neo Wave. I was originally going to get the Japanese version of this, but that one, I couldn't find an American copy anywhere. And then I was able to finally find this one, and the Japanese copy was way more expensive than this one. And yeah, it's, to be honest, when I loaded this up and I looked at it, this seems like an older game that might have been on the AES or the MVS, and it's being emulated, because it doesn't look that great. This is like a 2D fighter that looks like it's straight out of the 16-bit sort of arcade thing. And I remember playing it and I was like, oh, I'm not that impressed by the graphics. But yeah, the NTSC exclusive and one I had to get in. It's another game I already had, Red Faction 2. It's Red Faction, it's really good first-person shooter set on Mars, rising up against the evil oppressors. I actually got the limited run games PS4 limited edition of the first one. That should be coming in the next month or two, but really excited about that. But yeah, this is a good game, plays well, no issues. First-person shooter, pretty straightforward. This is a really funny one because I tried to get Dead to Rights and all the local ones were in the $50 to $100 range. I've since been able to find a PAL version that is about the $10 to $20 range, so I'll probably end up getting that. But this is an NTSC version that was local and it was cheap. And it was being sold so cheap, not only because it was out of region, which wouldn't be a deal breaker because, modded original Xboxes are a dime a dozen, but this thing is scratched up so badly that it will not play on an original Xbox or on a 360. Well, I haven't tried it on 360, but I'm assuming if it doesn't run on an original Xbox, it won't run on a 360 because 360 emulated them straight off the disc. But yeah, the Xbox One was able to detect what this was, download the file for it, and the way I look at it is I've sort of saved this game from just being thrown out, and it is complete, has the manual and the case and all that. But I'll probably get the PAL version just so that I can play it on other platforms if I need to. Fusion Frenzy, non-stop party game. Actually, yeah, it's a party mini game thing. It reminds me of, if you ever saw that Dean Cain movie, Future Sport, reminds me a lot of this, except that one, was actually a decent B-grade movie, and this is just a very meh B-grade game. So, yeah, there you go. Oh, this one, I have such a love-hate relationship with this one. Again, another NTSC import. I don't know. There must have been PAL versions of this, but I could not find one at the time. And yeah, it has no manual and all that, but I did pick this up. I think they had them locally because if it was an NTSC exclusive, which I'm not sure it was, yeah, modded Xboxes were a dime a dozen, so people have been importing Xbox games for years. This is a bit of a double-edged sword because I think this is probably the game that looks the best upscaled by the X, but it is also ball-achingly hard. Like, if you can imagine a ninja speed bagging your nutsack, that's how hard this game is. But it's the most gorgeous of any of the games that I've played through backwards compatibility, and yet it is just so damn hard. And it's not fun for me anymore. It crosses the hard fun line. It is hard and it's not fun past a certain point. I can't even get past the first boss. That's how terrible I am at it. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. As you can tell, it's a pretty highly rated game. Good old BioWare. Again, back when BioWare didn't suck. But that's mostly the EA effect. Haven't played this. Heard good things. Probably going to give it a go at some point. But like I said, this is on... I actually recommended this to a friend because he'd never heard of it, and he found it was on Steam and GOG and all that. So always something you can track down if it's something you're interested in. Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. This game is I have such a weird history with this because I'd bought this for original Xbox. Then I got rid of it when I found out, there's a PS3 remake of it, or port or remaster or whatever. I still have that one. It has 2 other Prince of Persia games on there, but apparently it's a shittier version. I only know that because Gerard the Completionist said he had a bad time with it. Like, you're supposed to knock down a wall to get like into a secret room, and that's not in that version, but it is in this one apparently. At least in the this version of it. I don't know if it's in the Xbox One version. And yep, complete and timeless classic, very good. Predecessor to the Assassin's Creed games, although I still think this is better than the vast majority of Assassin's Creed games. Black by EA. This is actually a multiplayer. It's on like everything. Don't have an original case. Don't have the manual. Just got the cover artwork and the disc for it. Probably got to actually look into getting an upgrade for that. But yeah, it's really, really good. 6th gen first person shooter. One that I played for about 5 minutes and I said, I have to put this down, otherwise I'll keep playing it forever. But it's really good. Like, again, if EA wants to not suck anymore, just look at some of your old games. But I'm pretty sure this is actually also on the PS4 store as well. So that's also another place you can get it. Now, Sid Meier's Pirates Live the Life. This is also on PSP and PS2 and the Wii and like a bunch of other shit. However, I actually don't like this game. This is like this reminds me of a 90s PC game. Because I'm pretty sure it's a sequel to a 90s PC game. But I don't enjoy this. It's not fun. Just got it for the collection. Decent condition. It's all complete. And yeah. Sort of a strategy kind of game. But yeah, it screams 90s PC game. Another game that I got the NTSC version of because I could not find a PAL copy. And it's not complete either. It's missing a manual. Is Blood Rain 2. This one I played for a few minutes. I thought it was funny because what I have to do is sort of jump on people's back and suck their blood in order to refill my health meter. So if you're sort of methodical enough and you go through it slowly enough, you can just keep your health up for a long time until you hit like a boss battle and then you're screwed because you can't really, as far as I could tell from the first boss, you can't really suck their blood all the time. Now, Star Wars Battlefront. Weird relationship with this game because I kept hearing the Battlefront series was so great, so awesome, and just perfect and wonderful in every way. Played this one because I thought I'll play this before number 2. I did not like this because you're in like these large pitched battles, and you spawn as like a one of the droid troopers from like the first prequel movie. Sorry about that. Phone's playing up again. Not much I can do. So yeah, you essentially infinitely spawn troops and you fight in these battles, but then you get killed and then you respawn, and then you have to sort of try and defeat the other enemy, but you have to kill off all of their troops, even though they're constantly spawning, before they kill off all yours. And I found that every level I would have to play like 5 or 6 times in order to be able to kill them off. Now, granted, I'm not particularly good at this game, but I did not find it fun. I'm hoping the second one has a bit more depth to it. But the good news is, when they announced the last batch of games, they actually released the DLC for this one and the second one, and I think a bunch of DLC for some of the Tom Clancy games I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, good to have the DLC released because it's pretty much the only way you'll be able to play it now, unless you have an original Xbox from back in the day. However, I don't know anyone who had internet back then. I knew 2 guys who had an original Xbox who play Halo against each other and against guys online, but I didn't like hanging out with them because they were massive methamphetamine addicts, so I steered very clear of them. Now, this is one of those games that I didn't know was an X-Rental copy when I ordered it, and it's from Epic. So yeah, Unreal Championship 2. Looks like, who was this for? Yeah, I don't know anything about this game, have not played it at all. It looks like this used to belong to a Blockbuster in Somerville, and I love how they've sort of stuck the manuals into the side, put this $10 fee if the damage or removal of the instruction booklet or whatever. It's got these are the security tags in them, so yeah, it's just X-Rental copies are so very interesting because the manuals are stuck in and they're covered in clear contact, like what you used to do for your school books, and so is the disc. Like you can feel on the disc, it's got like clear plastic contact on it, and it's a little barcode. But these are sort of a great time capsule of what the 90s were like and renting games and stuff, and the early 2000s as well, I suppose. Conquer Live and Reloaded, good game, but a little controversial because this version has had the Microsoft sanitization job done on it, where it stripped out all of the lewd and lascivious content. It's ultimately sort of irrelevant now because the N64 version is available on the Xbox One in the form of Rare Replay. So you can play the original N64 that way. The original N64 version that way, I should say. It's complete, it's in good condition. Good game, but I don't know that I will play this one. I'd probably play the 64 version because I don't mind a bit of vulgarity in the game, especially since it's so central to who Conker is as a character. He's a rude little shit, so it's sort of... It would be strange to have him not be that way. Now, onto the Tom Clancy games I spoke of earlier. Splinter Cell, this first one was one I had before its backwards compatibility was announced. A lot of these games I tracked down because I found out they were backwards compatible and was really interested in them. Only a handful I had beforehand. I think that was Conquer, all the Star Wars games I think I had before, with the exception of Starfighter. I think I had a handful of them. I'll figure that out later. So, Splinter Cell 1, no manual, but far out. I gotta start getting manuals or better copies for these. Splinter Cell 2, Pandora Tomorrow. This one is complete. I can feel by the weight of it. Yep. And Splinter Cell 3, Chaos Theory. I think the only one of these that I've actually played any of was this one, and it was on the GameCube when I first got my GameCube, and I was able to have a bit of a play of it on there. But now I have the original Xbox version. Splinter Cell Double Agent. A weird effect of games getting announced for backwards compatibility is some games you won't see a trace of them on eBay or Cash Converters or Amazon or anywhere until they get announced for backwards compatibility. And then someone says, oh, I have that. I want to sell it. It might be worth some money now that it's backwards compatible. And then people start posting them on eBay, and a week after they first get announced, copies start showing up. So this is a game I could find the 360 version of. Those were a dime a dozen. This original Xbox version, much, much harder to find. And unlike some of the other games I have to talk about, this one is actually the original Xbox build, not the 360 build. The 360 version is backwards compatible as well, but this one is just emulating this version of it. So this was one that I couldn't find, and then because it got announced, someone obviously dug it out of the collection and thought, oh, I can sell it, get a bit of money for it, and we got it. Now, the next two games I have are part of the weird exceptions to the rule, but not really thing. So, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Now, there are the console versions of this, which is the PS2 and original Xbox versions. They have licensed music and, better graphics. I'll explain that a bit better later, but the 360 version, if you put this into an Xbox One, it'll download the 360 build of that. However, what I've heard is that 360 build is actually based on the mobile phone version. Yeah, I don't mind when console games get ported to phones, especially when it's shit like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. I know a lot of people got into those game series because of that, and because they're 8-bit games, they're not terribly taxing. But how are you putting like a 6th-gen game, porting it to a mobile phone, an inferior port, I should say, and then transferring that shittier port onto a more powerful system? This confuses me greatly. This is one of the games I'd definitely say, just play this on an original Xbox, get yourself some component cables, like really good ones. the official Microsoft ones, I've got like one of the adapter boxes and some shielded RCA cables, and then just play it that way because it'll probably be a little bit soft on a flat screen, but at least you'll get the better music, and you'll be able to like load CDs onto your Xbox hard drive, and your character in game will have a radio station you can select that allow you to play your recorded music on your hard drive. But yeah, if you put this in your Xbox One, it will play the mobile phone version that was ported to the 360. Very weird. Arguably an inferior version. Not good. This next one is sort of the opposite of that. Battlefield 2 Modern Combat. Again, when EA didn't suck. You pop this in your Xbox One, the 360 build comes up, but from what I'm told, the 360 build of this is still decent. It's not perfect, but it's damn sight better than San Andreas was. So yeah, I have this. Again, it should play on 360. As far as I know, all but one of these will play on the 360, and this one again should play on the original Xbox and your Xbox One. So good times. This is another one of those games I had to import from the US because the PAL versions were all over $150 when I was looking for them. Now, that's sort of ironic because, again, Limited Run Games put out a PS4 copy, which is just a port of the PS2 version. And I have to say, this one is just a touch sharper when it's played in the Xbox One. The PS2 on PS4 version is a little bit softer around the edges. I suspect that's because it was designed to be played in a CRT, but yeah. This is definitely a sharper looking game, and this is not a limited edition thing. You should still be able to find this in fairly decent availabilities. This is definitely one of the games that I had before the backwards compatibility was announced. Crimson Skies High Road to Revenge. It's an airplane shooting game with a decent story. I think I've only ever been able to get sort of to the third or the fourth area. I think there's like a tropical island area. There's some other area. There's like a desert area that's really big and it's very hard to get past just because it's hard to do all the stuff for it. And then I got to the level past that. But still a very good game, but I am not a good pilot. I'm not very good at it. But this game literally was $1. And it's perfect condition and complete. These things are a dime a dozen. And I actually have the prequel to this for the PC as well. I've not been able to get it to work on a modern rig, but I might have to do the whole retro PC build thing just to see if I can play it, or because it's not on GOG, and that's the first version. That's a crime to not have that on PC. And I'll tell you what, Microsoft, if you want to make a bit of money for your streaming service for like Game Pass on PC, put the first version of this on Game Pass for PC. Put this on Game Pass Ultimate or whatever for download. I think it will be a very good choice. This is a game I have never played and have been told not to ever play because even though it's made by Pandemic and the old THQ, it was supposed to be like a recruiting tool for the American military to give them, based on a training aid developed for the US Army. Apparently it's very average shooting game. Not great. Star Wars Knights, The Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. Really interesting story behind this one's release because it was rushed through development right at the later stages because I think they were releasing the second or the third prequel movie and they wanted this to come out to coincide with it to sort of capture the hype. It might have been the second one because I know the third movie was made into a game of its own, and that's actually not a bad game. It's not a fantastic game, but it doesn't suck, in my opinion. This one has a bunch of levels and missions missing from it, and if you get like the Steam version, the modding community have sort of found the lost code to that, finished the code, done their own voiceover acting for it. Really interesting work, but this is another one that I think got all its DLC released on Xbox One, so if you didn't have it, an original Xbox with the DLC on it, you could just get it for Xbox One now, so that's sort of a nice conclusion to that story. Yeah. Hunter the Reckoning is the next game, and I have not played a bit of it. Not one single bit. I think I put it into my original Xbox and I ripped it to the hard drive just to check that it actually worked and would function, and download it obviously on the Xbox One. But beyond that, I have not touched it. I could not tell you the first thing about it. It looks like sort of a demon hunting game, and from the back of it, I'm pretty sure it's going to be something similar to that. Blinx the Time Sweeper. Kind of surprised the sequel didn't get put on as well. 4D action game on Xbox. Well, yeah. What I heard about this was that this was their attempt at a mascot, which I would argue you don't need since you have Conker and you have the whole Rare library. So I just would have picked a Rare character and made them your mascot. Now, probably one of the games I have played more of, even though I have not gotten that far in the game, because again, my skills are somewhat questionable. Panzer Dragoon Auto by Sega. It's originally going to be a Dreamcast game, but when the Dreamcast packed it in, thanks to some dickhead journalist and his big fat mouth, this ended up getting developed for Xbox along with a bunch of other sort of obscure and strange Sega games. Really good. Like, this will play at 16 times the original resolution on the X. It's really good. But I'm not good at it. But I get through the first sort of 3 or 4 levels, and I enjoy the first boss fight. That's actually really hard. So we have another Star Wars game, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, and I can feel from how light this is I'm missing a manual. Wow, my collection is not that great. I think the sequel to this, Jedi Outcast, actually just got released on all the modern systems, like on the Switch and the PS4 and the Xbox One and all that, so I might have to give that a go. But I thought the original release for that one was only PC. I know this one was also on PC because, LucasArts put shit everywhere, but I have not played it. This was on Games with Gold, like if you had Xbox Live, you could download this, I think it was. And it's supposed to be pretty good, but not as good as the one that just released. Star Wars Battlefront 2, again, this is supposed to be a generation-defining game, and one of the 2 most popular games on the original Xbox Live service. So when they shut it down when the 360 launched, obviously Halo 2 was sort of the last man standing, but this was the second most popular game on the service. And I'm really surprised that they don't at least allow online for these games on the Xbox One, or sort of just release the code to allow the community to run the original Xbox, like the Xbox Live service themselves. Like maybe a fan community can just run it and have a subscription service so you could play online. I think a lot of people, especially for Halo 1 and 2 and for these ones, would just like die to pay for that. They'd probably pay $5-10 a month just to be able to play on those servers again, because there's a lot of games that have Xbox Live that don't have like the network net play, like the LAN play. So you can't use Xbox Kai or whatever it's called to run it. Destroy All Humans, One Giant Step on Mankind. I have played a little bit of this, like the first 2-3 levels. The sequel is funnier, but this one is still really good. I think I like the opening of the second one more, but the second one seems a bit more confusing in what I have to do. But yeah, really funny like this game. But I heard from some people online that this gets brutally difficult right at the end, and I know they're doing a re-release of this, and I do hope they sort of fix the difficulty spike right at the end on it just to make it better. Yep, got it complete, but yeah, it's quite a funny game. A lot of comedy in that one. Now, this was a game that absolutely confused the hell out of me. Nothing to do with the gameplay. I put this in my Xbox One, download the patch. The entire language, like, it was all in Spanish. And there were no options for me to put it in English, which is really odd because with the OFLC sticker here, you can tell it should have been the Australian, English version which, to be perfectly honest, is usually just the UK version with a different sticker printed on the front. But yeah, this looks like the English PAL version. It doesn't really. I have to go back and play this again, but I'm very surprised with this one because it played in the wrong language. I couldn't figure out how to set it, and it's bizarre. Now, the next one is the Star Wars game that I have probably played the most. Star Wars Republic Commando. It's, what was it? I think it was like a third-person shooter, but it had tactical squad game elements similar to SOCOM, except I found these ones to be a lot easier than SOCOM, because SOCOM's got like drop-down menus where you got to choose a lot from. And I found this one just to be way more fun and enjoyable. I have played through like the first 5 or 6 levels on my first original Xbox that I had a few years ago. Played a little bit on my 360, which thankfully I still have, which is my Star Wars 360, which is appropriate. And then played a little bit on Xbox One. I've got to try and upload my save file while I still have some Xbox Live from my 360 to my Xbox One so that I can bring that, because that's my further save file that I still have. So I want to continue playing this because this was really good. This is also another one that got re-released by Disney and LucasArts on PC as well. So definitely run out and grab that one. Now this game is funny as hell because this game is the only PAL exclusive in the list, and it's got the European rating system. So I would be surprised if it got released in Australia back in the day, but again, it probably did. I'm probably just ignorant and stupid, but I played a fair bit of this at the start. Only because when Adam Koralik did a video on this, he was like, oh, I imagine this will be backwards compatible on a PAL 360, but I don't know for sure. So I plugged it into my PAL 360 and played it, and it's like, oh yeah, it works, sent him a tweet and all that. So, but this is bizarre because this released only in Europe, and it's a game where you play as a Nazi tank commander, and at least in the level I played, you're invading Poland. And I explained that to an English guy at my work, and he said, oh no, people in Europe have a pretty good sense of humor about this stuff. We don't take that too seriously. We know that there was a war and it was bad and that this person invaded that person here and there. And they're just okay with this stuff because it's technically historically accurate. The German military did invade Poland, and they're just okay with this being, a game set in a historical setting, and it doesn't get them all upset. Oddly enough, they didn't release this in NTSC because they probably would have loved it, but they might have got confused about, oh, I'm playing as the Nazis, I'm playing as, the German military. Is there some moral conflict here? But good game from the first one I played. Very easy to sort of, you steer with one stick and you aim the turret with the other stick, so I found that to be very intuitive. Pretty good, but it's another game I've got to put some more time into because that was really interesting. This is the only a funny story about this one. Jade Empire from BioWare. Again, when BioWare didn't suck because of EA and them being assholes. It's a limited edition version, which means it has the foily sort of cover. So keep an eye out for that. If you see the foil cover, do try and pick up that version. Now this has some bonus content on a second disc. And this is another point I've got to make about sort of modern games versus retro stuff. People act surprised and upset when some games like Final Fantasy VII or Red Dead 2 are releasing on 2 Blu-rays. Guys, multi-disc games have been a thing for a long time. Final Fantasy VII's on 3 discs. I'm pretty sure Final Fantasy VIII's on 4. Probably something similar with 9. Multi-disc games are not the end of the fucking world. You are not going to die because you have to swap a disc. Especially if you've got a hacked Xbox. You just load both in your hard drive and just go for your life. But yeah, the multi-disc games are fine. But this is funny. I remember as soon as I got this, I plugged this into my original Xbox because this is, again, one of the games I had before backwards compatibility got announced. And I played it with my friend because he actually has... he's engaged to a Chinese girl, and he has a thing for Asian women. So as soon as he saw this front cover with the beautiful Asian girl with a, scantily clad with a flaming sword on there, she was like, "Oh," he was like, "Oh, I got to see that. I got to play that game." And yeah, he quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed it. It was a good game, although I think he enjoyed it for far different reasons than I did. Now, these last two have interesting stories of their own as well, but this one, Armed and Dangerous, is the only game that is backwards compatible on the Xbox One, but not on the 360. It probably, during the 360's life, I don't think this would have been a popular enough game to justify working out the emulation and trying to resell it digitally on the 360 store. Digital sales weren't as big then, and I don't think this is, from having played a little bit of this, like I probably played more of this than I have of half these games, but this is not a great game, so I don't think the emulation development time and money and energy would have been worth it then. But now the story's a little different because this is wholly owned by LucasArts / Disney, and they can release this without having to pay anyone any money because LucasArts sort of did almost everything in-house. They had their own musicians, developers, programmers, like marketers, like just everything was in-house. So they own this lock, stock and barrel. So they could just dump it on the system because, hey, they own it. This game here is another interesting one because, oh God, look at how messed up it is at the bottom. You can tell they haven't aligned the paper insert correctly, and it's led to the bottom being just torn the hell up. Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy got a re-release on all the modern consoles, and Adam Koralik actually predicted this like 2 years ago. He said, "Oh, that the rights on this have been renewed. I think this was done by the old THQ, and I think now the new THQ, aka THQ Nordic, might now own like all the rights to it." So they did the remasters and re-releases on like Switch and PS4 and Xbox One and all that. And then this one got made backwards compatible, and he actually predicted that like a year before it happened. And this one was a bitch and a half to find because when he first predicted that it would go backwards compatible, I tried to look for it and I couldn't find it anywhere. And then when it did get announced, again the same. I think the it might be worth money effect kicked in. People were like, "Oh, I have that game. I might be able to sell it online for some money now that's backwards compatible." And so, yeah, this did cost me a bit more than I wanted. I think it was like 30 or something, but it's not a particularly great game to play. But yeah, it's good enough. So probably at this point, I think that's every game that I've looked at. I want to sort of go through some of the game, or what are the games that I've actually played the most. So I want to put them in a pile over here. Jade Empire, again, BioWare, RPG, Asian themed, really good. Panzer Elite Action, yeah, you're the Wehrmacht, the German army invading Poland. It's insane. Like, it's so politically incorrect, this game could not exist today. People who get overly sensitive about stuff would kill you for having this as a game in this point in history. Republic Commando, again, tactical score-based action, set the Star Wars universe. Love it, love it, love it. What else we got here? Again, Panzer Dragoon Auto, sort of third-person shoot-'em-up game, but 3D and all that. And where are the other ones that I played? Crimson Skies, played the shit out of that one, but not very good at it. Haven't played much of any of those. Really haven't played much more than the first sort of 20 minutes of Conga, because I played the other version but not this one, and I'd rather play that one. Which ones here have I played a lot more of? Played first couple levels of Prince of Persia, but again, not heaps, so I might put that in the medium pile. Okay, so move all these games out of the way. Played a fair bit of SSX 3, but again, it's only sort of 5 minutes at a time, first couple of levels. I'm not deep into the game. In fact, I'm not deep into most of these games. But I'll play this a fair bit more often just because it's so quick and easy. Emperor's Tomb, played a little bit of that. So probably more than the other games. And yeah, so Straighten this pile up a bit because it looks like a Jenga tower. Yeah. I sort of want to be able to read. Sorry about the jump cut. Hopefully it'll be the last one. So these ones are the ones that I have not played that much, or I tried them and I didn't like them. Again, too long a game to get into, at short notice. Ball achingly hard. Yeah, questionable party game, like not really interesting. Dead to Rights, just haven't played it. Wasn't interesting. Red Faction 2, played a little bit. Still prefer the first one over this one, but whatever. That's a full-on 16-bit 2D game that's been ported to a 16. Did not like that. Breakdown, the language thing. It's so hard to try and track down that I didn't want it. Didn't want to play it by the time I got it. Too much of a kidsy game. Psychonauts is okay. But I usually play the PS4 version now, even though I think this one still looks a little bit better. Battlefield 2 literally just got this and haven't had time to play it yet. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, have played a little. Yeah, I can live without it. It's fine. But I'd rather... Just not into the Grand Theft Auto, sorry. Tom Clancy's again. Played a little bit of 3, not much. Played none of that. Again, that's too long a game to sort of get into on a whim. Played a tiny bit of that, tiny bit of that. This game sort of, I feel like, was falsely advertised as not being as good as it was. Knew nothing about this game. Played the first level, very meh. This one, no, just stick clear of Sid Meier's Pirates. I did not like that. Black is okay, but not deep in that either. Haven't played that. Just couldn't tell you the first thing about it. Good game. Better version out there. Horrible game. Please don't ever play that. It's just not worth your time. Good game. PC version is better. And better not as in like I can run it 4K 60. I mean like has a lot of extra content. So probably get that one. Blinks. Trying to have a mascot when you've got a better mascot here. This is your mascot. This should not have been your mascot. I know you want to make it kid friendly, but this thing was pretty watered down by the time you got to it, so I wouldn't worry about that. Got to play that. Heard it's good. Okay, not as good as the sequel. Was all in Spanish. I gave up on it. Played a little bit of that. Very funny, good humour. Prefer the sequel, even though the sequel was harder. Yeah, really not a great game. Not a great game. And not a great game either. So these ones, I think... What I like about these are sort of a really wide selection of genres. Sort of a 3D platformer puzzle game, arcade sort of sports, yeah. The sort of 90s extreme sports style games, yeah, that's that. Very rare aircraft flight fight simulator, alternate history sort of 1920s sort of thing. Very different. Panzer Dragoon, third person on-rail shooter sort of game. Tactical squad-based sort of action with good story. Like it's like when they're attacking that factory planet with the little wasp guys, like the ones that fly around. Hilariously, like massively politically incorrect war game, and a good BioWare RPG, a pre-EA good BioWare RPG with Eastern theme. So there's a really wide selection here. I think these are my favourite 7 games in the lot. There are a lot of games in here that I think I probably should give more time to, but these are my picks for if you just want to get a handful of the games, get these ones because that one's dirt cheap, that one's dirt cheap. This one was cheap on the cheaper side, but it's still good. This one, sorry, if you're in NTSC land, make a friend in PAL territory and just find a copy of NeoWave and just swap it with another fan because that's your best bet. Jade Empire, again, not that hard to find. Limited edition is a little harder to find, but you can tell it easy because it's got the shiny foil cover, so just track that down. But if I had to pick only one for you to play, it would be Republic Commando because I think it's really, really good. Like I said, tactical squad based. Although these two just directly above it are probably 2 and 3. So 1, 2, 3. And the rest are like, all very good. All very good. But these really range in quality. I like stealth stuff, but I'm more of a Siphon Filter guy. That's why I didn't really get drawn to Splinter Cell. Should give Battlefield 2 a go. Psychonauts is still good, but it's another version that I've been playing. Yeah, so this is essentially my complete subset of original Xbox games that will, with one exception, play on the 360, and all of them will play on the Xbox One. You'll need an internet connection. You'll have to put the disc in and download the digital version of it, and then use the disc as an install key, same as any other Xbox One game. But highly recommended that you get and play at least our friends here, maybe like Battlefront 2 and, Psychonauts, and maybe the Splinter Cells if you're into it, and Prince of Persia is pretty good, and Elder Scrolls is, timeless classic, but it'll consume your life if you're not careful. And again, KOTOR's probably the same thing, a bit too long, but other than that, I really recommend you get into some of these because a lot of these are cheap. They're usually pretty easy to find. eBay and thrift stores and stuff should be able to hook you up, and you'll have a blast playing them. There's not a lot of these videos out there of the complete OG Xbox set. I think it's only me and one other guy who've put it up, but yeah, highly recommend you go out and buy these. Alright everyone, signing off, have fun.